This is kind of funny, and you can tell me if it's possible or not, but I was actually thinking walkie-talkies in each section, just something where they can say, hey, I'm starting the dish, the sandwich, whatever, for Bob. When is Bob's pizza up? And, being able to Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since our initial conversation with Mike from Fire and Slice. Since then, he's made some adjustments on his own to the restaurant. He's rearranged the kitchen to make it flow more easily for the staff. He's hired a general manager to help him out with some of the challenges he was having. And as you'll learn in this video, he's been troubleshooting some issues with the crust to try to bring that quality back up to where it was a year ago. I've also had a lot of conversations with him about some of his challenges and his goals. And I've hung out in the restaurant to watch what's going on and see what kind of recommendations I can make to make things more efficient or move forward more easily. Now, the night I hung out in the restaurant, I picked up a pizza and their mac and cheese special. The mac and cheese special was out of this world. The pizza was probably 85% where it used to be. Now, here a couple of weeks later, over the weekend, I picked up another pizza, and I can say that all of the troubleshooting he's done with the crust seems to be working because the quality of the pizza was back to where it was a year ago. And you may think that's convenient timing, but I really think that just shows the dedication that he had to getting the restaurant back on top and the pizza back to the quality that it used to be. So I hope you enjoy hearing the recommendations. Reach out to me with any questions. Thanks for joining. And action, right? Well, thanks for meeting back with me. So we are a few weeks after our initial meeting, and I've been to the restaurant a couple of times, kind of observing some things and seeing what I think we could do that could help out. So I know you've made a few changes along the way also. So you rearranged your kitchen, you hired a general manager. So tell me how those are, first off, starting with the general manager, how is that kind of impacting your workload? Is that helping you out? And what are your plans for someone in that role?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge... I've never hired someone like this before as far as experience. My new general manager, Brett, I've known him for a while. He's managed another restaurant in town, and he was, they'd laid him off for the wintertime. And I actually brought him in to do some consulting, and one thing led to another. And so, yeah, I'm excited about the direction he wants to take. He's very passionate about the entire concept of running a restaurant, and I'm very excited to let him, build his vision. So having someone that he's got, I don't know, over 25 years of restaurant management experience. So having someone like that can come in and probably solve a lot of problems that are going to take me a lot longer to solve just because I'm a little out of my comfort zone, or a lot out of my comfort zone with a restaurant this size.
Yeah, and it kind of helps you split the responsibilities, right? So I assume that he can kind of jump in so that you're not, having to worry as much about those 7 a.m. calls where something's gone wrong, or, you can
100%.
And so you guys also went in and rearranged a good portion of the kitchen in the last couple of weeks. So is that working better? What have you seen as the result of that?
Yep, and Brett was part of that when he was in there doing some, before I even considered hiring him, we talked about flow issues, and he got in there and spoke with some of the cooks. So that was kind of the concept here. Everything was, we had the freezer with all the items for the fryer on the opposite side of the kitchen. You have to get through the pizza oven to get there. I mean, it was just, when we put it together, it was more of this is where things fit in that moment. So with some time and planning, we were able to just kind of shift some things around enough that hopefully some of those flow issues are going to be a little bit better. Freezer proximity to the fryers makes a big difference. Probably not done. I think we have some other ideas and plans, but it was a quick enough step that, it's hard to remodel a kitchen. It's expensive and it takes time, and every day you're closed. So it was a quick and dirty adjustment we could make in a day, and we closed down for one day and kind of did a spring cleaning as well.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, I've got a few suggestions for you that we can talk through along the way. And I looked at this from a overall perspective. So I listened to and re-listened to what we talked about some of your goals and some of the things that you wanted to do. And then also just looked at some of the things that I saw that I thought might be interesting ideas or things that benefit you. Now, we've talked. I don't have a lot of restaurant experience. So I may tell you this and you can tell me, no, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know why we would do that. And that's totally fine. But give me your honest opinion and we'll just talk through this. And maybe some of it will help. Some of it may not. But we'll go from there. So first off, you got some really great people. I really enjoyed Haven and John, and Joni is just a great personality and very, very friendly, likable, easy to get along with person.
Yes.
So some of the things that I noticed, and you and I had talked about this, but Haven would be great to move up to a kitchen manager role for your lunch and dinner. She clearly knows what's going on and knows what she needs to do. She likes to jump in and do the work whenever you guys are busy. On that note, I always say make sure she does want to do that, because if she really likes being in the trenches, she may not want to be the person managing people. So have that conversation with her before you do that.
Yeah, I think that's always, especially that hiring from within. I think everyone, like you mentioned, the concept of managing, and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds great, better pay and I'll be in charge. But yeah, a lot of times being the one in charge means you get to do what you like to do a lot less. And this is another spot that I think Brett is going to be so big, because he really has that experience of training people and providing feedback in a constructive, like firm but constructive way that's not mean. And she's still excited. She still wants it, which is great. Like I said, I think Brett moving in is really hopefully going to be that kind of next step for her.
Now, John was a lot of fun, and he's very funny and entertaining. So I do think you might have an angle there where you could do something fun with him. One thing I noticed when I was watching him, by the way, from a quality perspective, his pizzas were consistent every time. Like every time it was made the same way, it looked the same. Like you could make two pizzas side by side and probably wouldn't be able to tell which one was which. And the pizza I took home that night was actually one of the best pizzas that I've had in quite a long time. It was really, really good. And that mac and cheese I still think about all the time, just for the record.
I told Haven.
That was amazing. But I was thinking about maybe there's some opportunities with John where you could set up like a pizza making class or something and have him show people how it's done as kind of a way to market or get some people involved. He does have a very entertaining personality. He could even make like pizza videos that you could put on social media. And then the other one is Joni. So since you got your liquor license moved over to the restaurant, the best way I can put it is she seems at home, very like relaxed, very much enjoying getting to be behind the bar and do that kind of stuff. So my thought was you can set up like happy hours with Joni where, she teaches people how to make cocktails, or you can have a Joni special cocktail on social media that you push, or maybe even list the ingredients for every once in a while. It's like, hey, here's Joni's. I think when I was there, she was talking about doing a Bloody Mary with tequila because it tasted like ceviche. So, some things like that. Or put up some fire and slice cocktail making videos with her. But she seems comfortable and at home. She's got a great personality, and I think she could totally do it.
She is. She's has tons of experience in the bar. Definitely the most experienced bartender I've ever hired. When I interviewed her, she talked substantially about her acting background.
Oh, really?
And how the way she looks at her, like, this is a performance, and that's so awesome and great. And I mean, she had me right there. Like the bar experience almost didn't matter to me, because it does make a huge difference, and she does. I mean, it'll be crazy, and I'll walk in, and I look at her, and she like gives me this little like eyebrow raise, so I identify like, okay, we're pretty slammed, but you could not tell. She's just walking around, smiling, moving really quick. She's can do a lot, and she has got a great just personality for that kind of work, and people really appreciate her, and she knows how to handle crisis and tempers that do tend to come up in a environment like this. So she's great. I really like. I mean, again, back along the lines with maybe doing more like actual video work, I could see her really shining. And that's a very good idea.
So going on to some of the recommendations, a little less marketing specific, but process related. One thing I noticed was it would be good to set up some really clear roles and responsibilities about who's doing what and who's supposed to be doing what. So we talked about moving Haven up as a manager. One thing from there, and we'll loop through a little bit later where this comes from, but it would be a good idea to have her or even your general manager now just loop through the dining room on occasion and make sure that everybody's got what they need and nobody's trying to find a server or somebody to help them out. Now I'll kind of explain where that comes from when we get to the dining room suggestions.
Sure.
So before the remodel, I did have a recommendation for reassignment of tasks in the kitchen. We'll talk through that and then we can see how that might apply.
All right.
going forward in the remodel. There's one thing that you and I both agreed on, but we were trying to solve it two different ways. That's kind of interesting. But when I was observing it, I noticed that your busiest station was your pizza, your grill, and your fryer for the most part. And I mean, that's, probably pretty standard anyway when you think about the menu, because you don't always have pastas or things going on.
I would say there's pasta. Yeah, that area is underutilized right now. I think at some point, especially with Brett's vision, he wants pasta every day, which I do too. It was a quality issue when we tried to do that initially.
So when I was there, it looked like there was someone stationed at the grill, stationed at the pizza oven, and then you had Haven kind of running back and forth between the pasta and the fryer and the plating and, salads and whatever needed to be done that was in between. One thing I did notice along the way as people were moving was that, and I don't think there's a good solution for it yet, but the pizza cart was kind of in the middle and people were kind of tripping over it and bumping into it a lot.
It's moved now. That is.
Where is it now?
Well, it's like behind. You've seen the pizza oven we turned, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like it's behind. It's over in that area, kind of. So it is out of the way now.
Good.
So anyway.
So I did notice when I was there that the person who was at the pizza station tended to have the most downtime, not because they didn't have a lot of pizzas going, but because you got it in the oven and you're turning it, and you got it in the oven and you're turning it. Yes. I mean, it's the same thing I do when I'm cooking dinner, right? If there's something I'm throwing in the oven for 45 minutes, I'm doing that, and then I'm cooking other things along the way. So a note there, what I was looking at from kind of reorganizing, and you'll see this on the second page where I kind of laid out the kitchen. What I was looking at to solve that was have somebody on the grilling and plating side, have somebody on the fryer so that you've got, a differentiation of tasks there. Have a person on the stove when you need them for pasta. But what I was thinking about was maybe the person doing the pizza should do the salads. Now, you move the salads out to the host's in. Yes. So my thought was if they're just turning pizzas, there's no reason they can't fix salads because the salad's not going to burn if they have to go turn a pizza. But how is it working having it at the host, or not the host stand, the server area instead?
I think it's a great idea. There's always an issue somewhere.
Right.
I think to a degree the servers are going to be happy because salads can come out a little quicker, which isn't always good because sometimes a salad's a meal. But some of my servers were happy about it. There are also other people that can make salads, like our hosts sometimes are not very busy. So I would say it's good. It was good to get out of there. It gave us a little bit more space too. I agree. I think that if that had not changed, that would have been a good idea. I'm hoping to utilize the pizza baker cook with actually building pizzas as well. It is an area where sometimes you look at and you feel like, God, there's a lot of wasted energy standing there and trying to get them to do other things. Which was actually the concept originally with the fryer, pizza, and freezer where they were, was that I figured the pizza person could kind of also help at least like start the fryer, like, hey, we need fries, but that never really materialized. I have some visions. I need to install more shelving and stuff, but I have some ideas for, rather than pizzas being put straight in the oven, always having more of like a system where you have pizzas ready to go, and so they're being called to fire, or vice versa, of like, hey, firing this one. So anyway, work in progress.
I actually had a comment on that too. I'll skip ahead to that while we're on the subject. This is kind of funny, and you can tell me if it's possible or not, but I was actually thinking walkie-talkies in each section, just something where they can say, hey, I'm starting the dish, the sandwich, whatever, for Bob. When is Bob's pizza up? And being able to communicate back
I've been a little resistant for whatever reason. Probably because the curve of trying to install a system like that's actually gonna.
Yeah, I don't even mean like a fancy.
I say install, I just mean like
process.
The process, like that's more what I mean. Is one of those like I feel like there's a solution that doesn't require walkie-talkie. They have brought up walkie-talkies many times, or headsets.
So it's not just me.
But
and sometimes you just need the simple way to solve the communication problem until you find the fancy way to do it. Now, I did add a couple of notes. I will admit that I might be a little critical of the new kitchen design. I can tell you that a lot of mine comes from the fact that I like clean lines, and I felt like when I was there, things were sticking out a lot. Now, I did think the cart was still in the middle when I was there. Maybe it's moved since, or maybe I'm confused. I don't know.
Maybe it's in the middle, but it's not as in the middle. Like before, it was like, it was in everyone's way. Now it's Not and as in the way, I don't know. I like nooks. You don't like nooks? I love them. Like, oh, this is my nook.
Well, so what I noticed, I just jotted down some initial thoughts for you. And again, I like clean lines, so there's definitely some of that playing in.
Okay.
I felt like the sandwich station looks a little cramped over here, but I didn't go in there, so maybe there's more room, than it looked like there was.
It's tight. Yep, it was. Well, and this was all. We didn't know until because there was a built-in countertop there, and so we had to rip that out. And I mean, there was a lot of discussion last minute of like, should we rip it out? Because the countertop was not like, it was taking up a lot of space and not serving a lot of great purpose. I think initially the plan was to put the sandwich bar like right in front of the window, and we realized that how deep it was, people weren't going to be able to reach the window, and like honestly, that just. The thought process was not there originally. So we had to kind of call an audible. And I think the big plan is to move the pizza oven further over and actually direct vent it out the wall. So it won't need to be underneath the hood.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's a bigger project that we were not ready for. So this is a kind of all we could do with the space. And unfortunately, you're really tied to the fact that you have to have these pieces of equipment underneath the hood system. And there's no you can't have the fryer sticking halfway out, and you can't have the pizza oven not under the hood. And so we're just kind of limited by that right now.
Let's see, the refrigerator door. So I know that John, I think it was opening out.
Oh yeah, it opens the wrong way.
And he wants to move it the other way. You really need to make sure they're communicating, hey, I'm opening the fridge or something, so that if somebody's over here at the sandwich station, they don't come around the corner and slam into the refrigerator door and then bang the door into the person standing in the refrigerator.
Yes.
So leading into that on the communication section, one thing I noticed is that when it gets busy, everybody just kind of starts scrambling. So Haven was running back and forth, just doing a lot of different things. And Andre, who is on your grill, was running back and forth. And I noticed that they're looking at the tickets on the wall. And Haven was kind of jumping in to help out with some things. Andre had some of them going. And then as we're going through it all, they're having to stop every few minutes to say, where are you? Which ones did you do? Which ones did you not do? Which ones are we at? Which means, there's a good chance of something getting missed or, making double of something or, some kind of lack of coordination. So just making sure that when people are jumping in on these, they're communicating it, and saying, hey, I'm starting the ticket for Bill, or do you have the ticket for Bill?
And, so it is kind of a mixture of, again, everyone understanding their roles, being clear in what their job is and isn't. And then you got to have someone that can read those tickets and orchestrate the ticket, and then remember who they told and what they, and so, and someone will, there are things, again, these are just, if you stand in the kitchen and listen, you'll hear, heard, and that's why that communication is so important, because, you might yell out, hey, I need 2 orders of, beer batter fries dropped, and move on with your life. And well, the guy was either distracted, maybe he wasn't even there, and he has no clue. And so unless you hear that confirmation.
So just a minor note, something I noticed along the way, the person who comes in to grab dishes and wash them comes in and stands there for a few minutes and grabs them one at a time and walks off with an armload and then washes them and then brings them back. So it seems like it would be beneficial to have like the clean bins and the dirty bins and just grab the dirty bin out and put a clean bin in and take it away. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the dish pit is it's kind of like one of those things where, it's not the end of the world. It's the dish pit. The dishes are getting done. But yes, it was probably my biggest frustration. Not my biggest. It was a frustration when we came in. It's just their dishwashing kind of process. It was so feeling inefficient and disorganized. An area of frustration that I think just kind of eventually fell off my radar.
So I did notice that when they get busy, when they're rushed, they start to scramble, they become really reactive, and things happen. And this is just a training thing. It's not something you're going to go in and fix tomorrow. But, they're tripping over things on carts and shelves trying to get around because they're rushing so much. At one point, a bag of carrots got spilled because someone grabbed it. And I don't know if there's a hole in the bag or what happened, but suddenly there's baby carrots all over the floor. People were grabbing things out of the fryer by hand, which I saw at both. I saw it on the grill at breakfast and at dinner with pizza and everything. They would just get in a panic and grab it and throw it on something. So my point was, while it's important to be fast, you do have to think about quality and safety. You know, it's better to deliver something 5 minutes late but have it perfect than have it undercooked or overcooked. And remind everybody that nobody's going to be helped if somebody has to go to the hospital because they burn their hand in a fryer.
Yes.
All right, so with the dining room, unless you're packed, you know, you might not really see a major difference. But the one thing I noticed when I was sitting in the dining room was that there was one server that was really regularly in the dining room, and they would come in and basically take an order or deliver food and leave. And, you know, when you're on the bar side, you've got a bartender, so you can flag somebody down pretty easily, get something if you need it. But there wasn't really that same presence in the dining room. So I would say have them loop through a little more often. Don't just focus on the table that they're delivering something to or taking an order from. Make sure that they're stopping to look around in case somebody has been sitting there trying to get their attention and ask for some help. And also back to the other point, you know, you can have Haven or Brett, you know, loop through too every once in a while just to make sure everybody's got what they need so that nobody feels like they're abandoned.
See, you should be in the restaurant. that is a very, yes, that's a, again, probably one of those things that just gets buried for me because I'm stretched too thin. But yes, something you always want to train your servers is to, you know, scan the room and trying to train my people to have the same thing. And I mean, I've had conversations with people that they will not come back to a restaurant at which they sat there and their drink was sitting there empty for any length of time, and like not like immediately, but like, and it was a reasonable complaint. Like, yeah, I think it's huge, and I agree.
So the host stand. What I did notice, I know it can be really awkward to like sit there at a host stand or stand there and talk to complete strangers. It's easier to kind of like disappear and avoid the small talk. But I do think it would be good for them to spend a little more time at the front desk, especially if you're crowded and people are waiting on tables. And I do think something you should consider is the upsell. So whenever you have people like they come in for their to-go order and it's not ready yet, have the host at the host stand say, you know, that's going to be another 10 minutes. Would you like to grab a drink at the bar while you wait, and I'll let you know when it's ready. You know, try to get them over there. Maybe they'll grab a drink, a little extra revenue. Another one is if you've got a lot of people waiting on a table, invite them to grab a drink while they're waiting. And if you have a long wait, and I don't know if this is okay in the state of Montana. I know it varies all over, but I don't know if you could have like $1 off drink cards that you could use for when there's like a really long wait to say, here, would you like to use one of these and go grab a drink at the bar or something? Just to, you know.
It's an interesting idea. I like the concept, and I agree. I think we were just talking about our hosts. So yeah, obviously they go into that waitressing area because they can do prep in there, and they do. I think they also use it as an excuse not to be up front. Like occasionally when I host, I'll usually fold silverware out front, which I feel you can do out there. But yeah, so I agree.
The last point I was going to make is the same thing that we were just talking about, but chatting with the customers while they're waiting is just a friendly, happier dining experience, even if it isn't always fun.
But yeah, trying to push them outside of that. They all need to be like Joni.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I agree. That's something we're, I think, working on and trying to push them to be. But, you know, so I think sometimes as a restaurant owner, we settle for like, well, at least they're taking the phone call and getting the food out without too much error.
So the last note here, you know, I didn't see a lot with breakfast because, you know, breakfast wasn't busy that day. Always happy to come back and, you know, check that out if you want me to.
Well, we are going to hopefully be adding waffles and.
Ooh, I was wondering why nobody has waffles.
I don't know.
I was assuming it was a kitchen space thing because you have to have.
I think it is. They're messy because I did just order some waffle irons, so that is something we're going to do. And like, do you like chicken and waffles?
I love chicken.
See,
and waffles.
I've never had it. I don't even understand.
It's all over the South.
But it's all over. Yeah, you go to Vegas and like, oh, I got chicken and waffles. Yeah. And, right. Yeah. So I think that's in the works. You know. So, yeah. What are your thoughts? This all started with an email. Hurt my soul a little. I'm kidding. It didn't. It was a unique.
Tried to be so nice.
It was one of the better. But I mean, there's some things that are like we just recently adjusted our dough because I think that was a comment actually that hey, your dough's different. I'm just like, man, it's not. But I'm like, okay. The water might be different. The water temperature might be a little like it does. Our water over there seems really, really cold. So I had some. So we actually made some adjustments to our yeast and our water temperature.
So I didn't think about that before coming in here because I don't have the pizza experience to tell you what I think caused it, but I can tell you what I noticed. And
Yeah.
I was starting to wonder if it was maybe just the change in the pizza oven, maybe that was causing
It
I
could
don't
be
know.
a little bit.
But what I noticed was when you guys were here, the crust was always a little thicker. And it seemed like it just had a little more flavor. I don't know if it was like a garlic or something, some kind of seasoning to it that it felt like it just had a better flavor overall. It does seem a little less flavorful. It's always a little flatter now, is one of the big things I noticed.
Yeah. I mean, it's a different oven. We have not changed the recipe at all. Pizza gets its, and we've never done any sort of seasoning on it. Most of your dough flavor comes from your fermentation and letting the yeast. And I'm leaning towards, again, so we're just adding a little bit more yeast and we're using warmer water, and they're proofing more. So I'm hoping that's going to improve the flavor. It's so hard to it's frustrating that something that we were known for, which was our dough, and something that we haven't actually changed is all of a sudden now kind of a weak point, because toppings are toppings. I mean, again, we haven't really changed our toppings. We haven't changed our sauce. We make it the same way, I think. I mean,
different chefs might.
Different chefs, but we have a recipe book, and I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing too complicated. So, the only thing I can really think of is the only real difference. And the oven, even the one we're using now, is probably the closest thing to the wood-fired pizza oven we used to use. It's a brick stone, cooks it in a similar amount of time. Again, every oven's a little different with how the air flows, but yeah, I don't know. It really shouldn't. It should be fine. And
have you thought about the temperature of whichever room that you proof it in? Is it different from what's over here?
And that was part of I mean, we proof it in the fridge, actually. But that's how we've always done it. We make the dough, we portion it, and it goes in the fridge.
How long does it stay in the fridge?
We try to have a 24-hour ferment.
How do you think that the winter temperatures, with it being in the fridge, could be factoring into
So that's kind of where I arrived. I'm trying to think of all the factors that might have changed our dough. So my biggest thought has been temperature, a mixture of water temperature. Yes, I think my kitchen is generally colder than my kitchens have ever been. But yeah, maybe just that. Maybe that just hour that it's being made, portioned, is so much colder, and then the colder water and then you put it in the fridge, and maybe it's just never. Yeah. It's just not fermenting as much, which is why, again, we've increased our water temperature, and I've increased the yeast a little bit, which should kind of help. Yeah. It's something I want to correct, and I want to serve a great pizza. I mean, it's my thing. Do what we can, keep training people, try to create systems, have layers and layers of quality control. I think that's kind of the main thing you have to have.
Well, I really hope all of this helps.
Yes, thank you. It does. I will read through it again.
You can have Brett look at it. If you got any questions or comments or thoughts afterwards, just let me know.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm around. So if you ever need anything, just tell me.
Okay. Did you want to do an ending?
That was my ending.
Oh, sorry. Inner, and I actually was at the sheriff's office the other day, or a few weeks ago, getting fingerprinted for some licensing stuff.
Oh, I thought this was going to go very different.
No. I know. I'm I better clear this up. This again was kind of are you into football? Do you like football?
I do like football.
Okay. So this is when everything's falling apart and the quarterback is scrambling and you got your receiver going and you're like, that's what happened there. So we still got a first down as far as I'm concerned.
Chatting with the customers while they're waiting is just a friendly, happier dining experience, even if it isn't always fun. So I'll tell you a little funny story about me. I did not talk at all if I could avoid it until I was about 20 years old. I would generally try to avoid conversations with strangers. I only talked to people that I was close to. Every single entry in my high school yearbook said, "You seem really cool, but you never talk." And then I started working retail in college. I started that at 19. And I had to get into that habit of being able to talk to strangers and talk to people who came in and sell things to customers. And I got really comfortable with it and better at it. So even though it may be awkward, going out into that, really, it helps you in life. I mean, because I can come in here and talk to you now, and I can have a conversation with a total stranger down the street without an issue now. Right. But it helps you build that skill set, even if it's a little awkward or uncomfortable. Yeah,